Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you to the HR session of Global Digital Week. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Rohit Talwar. He's a futurist and he's a CEO with Fast Future. He's also an author and has written many books on looking into the future about technology in many different areas. And he's going to give us some thoughts on the impact of technology in the future from an HR point of view. Welcome, Rohit.
Well, firstly, thank you, Christina and Guillermo, for inviting me to be part of this very important week, getting people to embrace global digital on a global stage. So let's jump straight in. I want to talk a little bit about what we see coming on the horizon. And I'm going to be drawing a lot from this new book that we've just published, where we have over 30 authors from around the world sharing their ideas about what might shape the future. And I'm going to focus a little bit on the elements that are most important when we think about this from an HR perspective. So what we see is that with Futurists, we help clients around the world to really embrace that future. And we've published a number of books that you can see here. And what we see is the challenge now is getting the whole organization to think about how do we behave with a futurist mindset? And for leaders, how do we really lead from the future? How do we develop that capacity to understand what might be coming and to lead from the outside in, looking at what competitors are doing, looking at what might be coming in the next 2, 3, 4 years, and using that to then start internal conversations that drive new decisions, that drive new opportunities. So the HR challenge there is about creating the space in people's heads to think about the future, to let go of past assumptions so we can develop that futurist mindset. And what we know is that really a good futurist mindset has us thinking about 3 different time horizons. So what do we need to do this year to make sure we're in good order? What might be coming in the next couple of years that requires us to change fundamentally in our business? And then what might be coming in the longer term that could reinvent our sector and give us whole new ideas about what our business is about our business models, about who we work with. And the more understanding we have of that longer term future, the more able we are in the nearer term to start developing our agility, our mindset, our capacity to experiment, and really creating that HR culture that is about leading and developing for the future. And I think if we look at what's coming, what we realize is we're in a decade of big dreams. Within this decade, we could have artificial intelligence that's as smart as humans, people talking about colonizing planets, building underwater cities, having autonomous vehicles on our roads, having monitoring devices on our body that literally warn an ambulance 30 minutes before we have a heart attack that we're reaching that, so that the ambulance arrives before we're stressed out. So in that decade, what kind of things we need to focus on? Well, the first is HR, we really need to be building into the culture this focus on sustainability and getting to net zero emissions, net zero waste, net zero energy use. And because the talent coming in demands that. They want their organizations to be for good, to be making a positive difference. And so we need to be looking at how that's being designed into all our processes, all our roles, all our HR relationships, whether we're asking those questions the whole time about each business unit and what are we doing to drive sustainability in our area of activity. We also know that we're in a world where trust is being challenged. We need to find ways of developing trust, building trust. That means the environment for our organization, both internally, is superbly trusted, but also our brand in the marketplace is trusted. And if we're in financial services, people trust us with their money. If we're in construction, people trust us to create a safe and pleasant building. And if we're in the food sector, they're trusting us to give them healthy products with no side effects. We also know that we're into an era where digital now dominates everything. The 6 biggest companies in the world outside Saudi Aramco together are worth about $10 trillion. That means they're around 10% of the entire global stock market. And if you add together all these other brands, you still don't get to 10 trillion. And it shows you how important digital is becoming and how our digital literacy now becomes our survival strategy. That if we're not literate, if we're not developing deep digital dexterity, And we're not getting to the point where we have real digital expertise in every employee, then we know we're holding ourselves back. And so that challenge is about getting people to understand both how the world is changing and the role of digital within that, so that they can see why change is needed, so that they can acquire new skills, whether to use inside the organization or in roles they might take if they leave. We also know that the crypto economy is going to become an increasing part of this, whether it's because we're accepting cryptocurrencies, as many businesses are, or our suppliers are asking to be paid in crypto, or more importantly, our employees are now asking to be paid in crypto. They're wanting that as their mechanism of reward because of the potential capital appreciation, and that they much rather do business in that way. And we're seeing with the rise of metaverses, an entire economy happening in the virtual world where crypto is the main currency. So we need to get our heads around this, understand what it is, understand the risks, understand how we can use it, and understand how to enhance the citizen experience, whether they're a customer or an employee using crypto. The final piece we need to think about is then, as HR, what role can we play in making sure the organization is future-proofed? And the first is to really see our role not just as administering HR processes and making sure we have the right contracts, making sure people are getting the right allocation of training, they're reporting all the right things, managers are doing appraisals. That's all great stuff. But really, our prime role into the future should be ensuring that the organization is creating exceptional experiences for our talent. So people not only want to come to work for us, but they boast about us. They feel like they're being enriched on a constant basis. They feel like their managers and their leaders are trying to create the best possible environment for them to deliver on. They want to take new opportunities because they'll feel like they'll be rewarded, they'll be encouraged, and if things don't go well, they'll be asked to share the learning, they won't be punished. And we talk a lot about these things, but really our challenge now is, in a world where technology will play a bigger role, what role do we have for humans? And we have to make sure that the role we're creating is not just an alternative to a machine, but it's something exceptional that humans can do and requires an exceptional experience for them in order to do that. I think one of the most important things we can really focus on as well is, how are we helping employees build their own personal brand? So letting people know who they are, what they can do, what kind of talent they have. So networking internally, really showing off themselves to their best, their accumulated experience, their interests outside, but also to build their brand in the outside world, because we know people don't stay forever. So what help are we giving them to make sure they're going to the right networks, or looking at networks, they're doing the right learning, they're profiling themselves through blogs and things, and that we're really enhancing their future career by encouraging this. We also need to be thinking about, how do we help people carve their path through? Because what we find in organizations today, everyone thinks they're right, but quite often everyone has a different opinion. And it's very hard for individuals to know which is the right way to go. If we're in a matrix structure, we might have 3 or 4 different people telling us what we should be doing. And one of the challenges is, as we build the resilience of our employees, it's giving them that courage to say, okay, let me navigate my path through. Let me explain myself to each of the people who want something from me, to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I've made the choices I've made, and what outcomes I'm trying to deliver. Another critical challenge, I think, for HR is to make sure that we're getting the organization to remove complexity wherever we can. We're taking out the reports, the meetings, the activities that add no value, so we can free up time and headspace for people to get involved in change. And that also means we're getting people to prioritize around key things like talent development, getting our technology right, and getting our initiatives prioritized, so we're not overloading ourselves, because we're kidding ourselves if we think we're going to deliver on these massive agendas. Something always gives, something doesn't get delivered. So it's better to focus on a vital few and get them delivered, and then the next, rather than trying to do everything. And the final couple of thoughts is, a key role for the organization now is building that capacity to look at the future. And HR, I think, has a very important role to play here, in terms of not necessarily the foresight processes, but making sure we're getting the right talent in there, the right remit, and the right support, so that those people, when they're bringing back challenging ideas, have an environment that's willing to listen. So, for example, we're helping a client think about where AI might be going in the next 10 years. Now, that's a very big thing to talk about. And we're working with HR to make sure that the leaders and managers who are going to see this report are really open to these ideas and open to the possibility of their organization being turned upside down. So it's creating the culture that allows foresight to survive. Obviously, there's a clear role in making sure we're helping develop capability and also creating that focus on the future in terms of the design of work, the design of leadership roles, and getting people thinking about, well, what is the future of work? What are the only possible futures of work, and how do we prepare for that? That also means really getting that deep digital literacy that we talked about. And so the final thought here is really our organizations are having to change in quite fundamental ways. In the past, we had dance routines. We knew certain music would play, the music of more competition in the marketplace, the music of customers demanding a lower price, the music of someone introducing new products, the music of an economic downturn. And we knew how to dance to each one of those things. We'd learnt that. And the organization knew the response. Now everything is changing at the same time. We're into accelerated development in many areas. We don't know how to deal with them in the same ways we didn't know really how to deal with the pandemic. We don't know how to deal with blockchain technology, with crypto, with artificial intelligence, with workers wanting half the year off every year to do their own thing. We don't know how to deal with all that yet. So we have to learn those dance routines. We can't learn those dance routines by just writing reports and project plans. We have to get onto the dance floor. We have to try things. We have to kick our dance partners. We have to tread on people's feet. We have to make mistakes, look ugly for a while before we look cute and before people want to dance with us. So I think that's, for me, is the key here, is learning how to dance to the new music. And so just to conclude here, I started at the beginning by talking about our book. We're very happy to make an offer of a 50% discount on this new book, but also anything in our bookstore. Just use that code GDW50 on our bookstore site and at fastfuture.com/shop. And there you can also get a free copy of our newsletter, which is normally $149 for a subscription. So hopefully there's some added value there for you to keep learning from as you step further into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohit. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you also for the offer for Global Digital Week. Global Digital Week 50, GDW50. That's brilliant, because I was fascinated. I actually loved the beginning when you said about we have to be conscious for the near future, 1 year, 3 years, the future. You gave us a framework of what we should be looking at and thinking about. But there's a lot of content in there, a lot of advice. So I think if people get the book, then they can slowly go through it and absorb it and take it in. And you're always available to talk about it. And I know also that you put webinars and conferences on. We've worked together many times. So I know that this is where you are. You are a futurist. You're always looking into the future. So I really appreciate you kicking off this agenda with such a fantastic presentation. Thank you, Rohit.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.